Today we're going to look at placing pictures, text boxes, and shapes into our Word document. Specifically, we're going to show you how to insert pictures into the document. We're going to show you how to add a text box, what that is. We're going to add shapes into our document. Once we've added these three things, we're going to talk a little bit about selecting objects that have been placed there, resizing, and deleting those objects. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about inserting pictures, and so we're going to need to get some pictures in order to insert. Rather than opening a Word document, we need to copy some files to our computer. So what I'd like you to do is minimize anything that might be running on your computer so that you can see your desktop. And on the desktop there is a folder called Class Files. Yours will look different than mine, but it will say Class Files. Please double-click on Class Files. Then proceed to the IIT folder. Double-click. We're now going to go into the Word data files. Double-click on Word. And we are still in Chapter 1, so we're going to open up the Chapter 1 folder. At this point, you will see a bunch of files. And if we scroll down, I'd like to look at the files that begin with W08. W08. You've got three files that begin with W08 that have a different icon over here. These are picture icons. What I would like you to do is to point at the first one, which would be W08, Apply Picture. And what I'd like you to do is I would like you to copy this to your Pictures folder. The way you're going to do this is point at the file and drag it with your mouse over to where it says Pictures and let go. You're going to repeat that process with the practice W08 practice picture. So I point at the file, I drag it to Pictures. And then finally, with W08 try a picture, what we're going to do is drag that on top of the Pictures folder as well. What you've just done is you've copied several pictures into the Pictures folder that will allow us to do the work that we're going to need to do for this particular lesson. Let's get started by opening a blank document in Microsoft Word. With Microsoft Word running, getting a blank document, we're now going to insert a picture into this particular document. If you go to the Insert tab, you've got this option that says Pictures. You've also got Online Pictures. The difference between these two are real simple. Pictures are on your computer, online pictures are on the internet. So this picture that we're going to insert is on our computer, so we're going to click on the Pictures button. This should automatically open us to the Picture folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down to the W08 Try a Picture. W08 Try a Picture. Now for you, I'm sure that picture is right there when you open up when you did Insert Picture. I'm going to go ahead and click on that Insert button, and that picture is now placed in my document. I'm now going to click after the picture, that's to the right of the picture, and I'm going to press the Enter key a couple times. That will place my cursor down below this picture, and what I now want to do is insert another picture, but this time we're going to get the picture from the web. So we're going to go to the Insert tab again, Insert. We're going to go to Online Pictures, and we're going to do a search for pictures online. So here where this says Bing Image Search, we're going to type in computer. Once you type in computer, you can press the Enter key, and you will see a series of computers that will show up. At this point, it's not really that particular which computer picture you happen to pick. So if you want to scroll through and look at some of these computer pictures, you can ultimately pick one of the computers that you see here on the list and insert it. So I've placed two different pictures in this document. So I want to click back on the Home tab in order to get back to the Home tab and see the buttons that are there. And we need to save this file. So let's go to the File menu, do a Save As. We're going to redirect this to the computer, Documents. We're going to create a folder with today's date. So I'm going to click on New Folder. I'm going to type in today's date. Press Enter to lock it in place. Double click on the file or the folder to open it up. And now we need to give this file a name. This file will have the name W08. We're working in Lesson 8. And this is Try A. W08 Try A. And as always, I put my initials at the end. And I save this file. So I now have W08 Try A with two pictures in it that has been saved. Please don't close this file, but we are going to open a new blank file. So I'm going to go up to File, New, we're creating a brand new file, and we're going to open a blank file. So I have my new blank file. What I wish to do is I wish to take a picture, if you will, of my other Word document that's open. The way I can do that is through this tool called Insert Screenshot. What Screenshot does is it allows me to take a picture of the things that I have open on my computer. So when I click on the screenshot, I will see a picture of my Word document with the two pictures in it. I click on that, and there I will see that snapshot of the document here. Now, one mistake I did make is I should have saved this file before we got started here. So let's go to the File menu, File, Save As. Direct this again to my computer, and then go into the folder with today's date on it. This file is going to be W08 Try B with your initials. So I've got Try B open here, and I've got a picture of my Word document in there. I'm going to click after that picture, press the Enter key a couple times to move to a new line. Now that I'm on a new line, I want to go ahead and I wish to get another screenshot, but this time I don't want to actually take a screenshot of the entire screen. Instead, I want to take a screenshot of part of the screen. So I'm going to come down to Screen Clipping. After a moment, your screen will kind of dim out a little bit, and your cursor will have this cross on it. Using the cross, what I wish to do is I wish to just get the part of the picture that has this font group on the ribbon. So I'm going to take my mouse, I'm going to put this cross in the top left part of the font group. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down, and I'm going to drag my mouse down and across to select the rectangle that is that font group. When I let go, it'll bring me back to my original document that I was working on, and it will place a picture of that font group right here. So I've got two screen clippings in Try B. I've got a picture of my Word document with the two pictures in it, and I also have a picture of the font group of my ribbon. Let's save our work. At this point, we are done with this file, so I'm going to go ahead and close this file. Brings us back to the original file. We are done with that as well, so we're going to go ahead and close this file as well. If in the process of closing the file it asks you to save the file, go ahead and say yes to that prompt. Going to my book, I'm going to turn to page 151. Page 151 in my book. Here I'm going to open a doc file that I will use to manipulate the rest of our lesson here. So I'm going to click on doc here. Once this file downloads, I'm going to choose Enable Editing. And we're going to save this file to our folder with today's date. File, Save As. Clicking on the folder with today's date, I'm going to add my initials to this file. At the end of this file, the last word that is in this particular file is the word weather. So we're going to go ahead and click to the end of this document, and we are going to insert what's called a text box. A text box is exactly what it sounds like. It is a box that holds text. If you will, go to the Insert tab. On the ribbon, you will have an icon that says Text Box. There are a lot of pre-made text boxes that are available to us. We're going to use one called Simple Quote. So I'm going to scroll down to the S's. They are alphabetically arranged. I'm going to find the box that says Simple Quote, and that places the text box in the document. Now, we're going to type some text in here. We're going to type in Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard is beautiful. Apparently I forgot to put a space in here, so I'm going to go back and do that. It's beautiful even when the ocean is raging and the clouds block out the sun. Martha's Vineyard is beautiful even when the ocean is raging and the clouds block out the sun. Alright, I'm going to zoom back out now. You should have this typed in by now. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move this box over to the left side a little bit. I'm going to do that by taking my mouse to the outside edge, clicking on that outside edge. I can then drag this over to the left-hand side of the screen. What we're going to do now is we're going to insert another text box, but this time we're actually going to we're actually going to draw the box itself. If you will, let's return to the Insert tab. Insert. Want to make sure that you don't have the current text box selected, although I think that would be alright in this version of Word. There are times that if you have one object selected when you create a new one, it'll delete the old object. So with the old object not selected, putting your cursor up somewhere at the end of the text here, we're going to go ahead and click on text box, and we are going to draw out our own text box. Once again, we get the cross here. I'm going to go ahead and drag this out next to the previous text box. And what we're going to do, rather than retyping it, it's exactly the same text I want to put in here. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the text that we have from before. So I'm going to select this. Martha's Vineyard is beautiful even when the ocean is raging and the clouds block out the sun. I've selected that, and I'm now going to copy. I right-clicked on it. I'm going to copy the text. I'm going to come over to the new text box, click inside of that new text box, and now I'm going to paste that text in. What's the problem here? Notice the text over here is white. If we have white text with a white background, guess what? I'm going to take and select the text. Even though I can't see it, I'm dragging my mouse across this text. And I'm going to change the color of the text. Going back to my Home tab, I'm going to tell this to make the text, instead of white, to make the text automatic. And now I have my black text. The last thing we're going to do relating to text boxes is I'm going to select some text. I'm going to select Martha's Vineyard Beach Scene, selecting that text. And let's watch what happens when we go to the Insert Text box with something selected. I'm going to go to the Insert tab, click on the text box drop down, and I'm going to come down and choose Draw Text Box. Because the text was selected, what happened was the text box was created and that text was moved into that text box. If your text wrapped around like this, we want to make one small modification so that the text goes underneath the text box. The way I do that is I'm going to click on this button right here. We'll talk much more in depth about this at a later time, but I'm going to click on Layout Options. And I'm going to choose to set this to in line with text, right here, this first option. And when I do that, Martha's Vineyard Beach Scene should be at the top, followed by your paragraphs, then your two other text boxes at the bottom of the document. Alright, this wraps up our section relating to text boxes. Go ahead and save that file. Once we've saved the file, we can close this file. I'm going to come up and do a File and Close. And what I now want to do is create a new blank document. File, New, and a blank document. Before we get started, let's save this file. File, Save As. We're going to go to Computer, the folder with today's date on it, and this is going to be W08 try D, the letter D, and then your initials. Alright, we're going to talk a little bit about shapes in this particular file. So with try D open, we're going to go ahead and click on this Shapes button found on the Insert tab, Insert Shapes. And here we've got a variety of different shapes that we can choose from. I'm going to start with this rectangle, clicking on the rectangle. And when I come down to my document, I can draw out, by dragging my mouse, a rectangle. Let's try a different shape. You will see what's called a contextual tab is open. It's the Format contextual tab. And here I've got the shapes that I can pick from. I still can go back to the Insert tab, click on Shapes, and pick my shape from here as well. I'm going to go to the oval this time, and I'm going to draw out an oval shape. I'm not going to go back to the Insert tab. I'm just going to use the shapes that are right here and available to me. I also have the ability to draw a line. I'm going to pick this line shape right here, and I can use that then to draw, and I'm going to come back and pick another one. I can draw lines on my document. Now if I want that line to be perfectly straight, and what I mean by perfectly straight is I want it to be perfectly horizontal, left to right, or perfectly up and down. If I use that line tool and I hold down the Shift key as I'm dragging that line, it will force that line to stay either perfectly straight, left to right, or if I do it and drag down, it would make the shape up and down as well. Some other options that are available is this arc shape. Clicking on arc, I can use that now to drag an arc shape on my document, just demonstrating that a couple different ways. The next item over is a curve. I can use that to create a curve. And this one, what you're going to do is every time you click your mouse, it's going to create a curve. And when you are completely done, double click. And when you double click, that's telling your program that you're done drawing that curve shape. So again, each time I click, it creates a curved part of my shape. And if I double click, it will end the shape. And if I start it, or if I end my shape where I started it, it will even fill the shape in. There's also the scribble tool. The scribble tool does exactly what it sounds like. It is a totally free-form shape that I can place on my document. You may want to pause the video to allow for some time to experiment with the different shapes that are available in Word. Let's save this file by clicking on the Save button, and then we can close this file out, and we're going to go back to our book. In our book, we're going to turn to page 153, and you will need to scroll to the bottom of this page, page 153. We're going to open up this doc file that's at the bottom of page 153. Enable the editing. Save the file to the folder with today's date and add our initials. In this file, we're going to talk a little bit about selecting and layering our objects. In this particular file, there are three different shapes. One is a line, one is an oval, and then we have another shape that is red that we really don't know what that shape is right now. We're going to find out in just a moment. When shapes overlap, or any object in Word overlaps, there's always something that's going to be on top of the other objects. In this case, the oval is on top of all the other shapes. So I'm going to click on that oval, and that will select the oval. With the oval selected, I can now go up to the Format tab. The Format tab is a contextual tab, meaning it only appears at certain times. In this case, it's when a shape is selected. And I've got these layering options over here called Bring Forward, Send Backward. Right now, this shape is all the way to the front. It's in front of everything else. So if I click on Send Backward, what that's going to do is send it back one layer. Okay? At this point, that red shape, which happens to be a heart, is much more visible. If I click Send Backward again, I can see that there's another shape in here. It is a yellow triangle. And I believe that is all the way in the back at this point in time. Now, if I want to click on the heart, I can do so. Notice that the line is actually in front of the heart. So if I bring that heart forward, the heart is now in front of the line. So I now have the ability to move some of these shapes around. I'm going to move the heart over here. I'm going to move the star over here. Now, the star is behind the line, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that star forward so that it is now in front of that line shape. So I have the ability to reposition or move these items around. I can change the layering of these items. Another thing I can do is I can change the size of these items. I want to make this heart a little larger. With the heart selected, I'm saying heart, but I'm pointing at the star. I meant the star. With the star selected, I want to come up to my Format tab, and I'm going to look on the right-hand side, and here I see my size tools. Now I want to make this exactly 1.5 inches, so I am going to change the height to 1.5. I'm also going to change the width to 1.5 to make my star larger. I'm going to go ahead and reposition it so that the star is more centered as it relates to the line. I'm going to do the same thing with the heart, but I can use the corner handles of this heart to do the same thing. Taking my mouse, I can resize the heart by using these corner handles and dragging it to the height and width I want. The problem with that is while it gives me the ability to eyeball it, it's going to be very difficult to get that to the perfect size. So I'm going to go ahead and move, using my arrows here, I'm going to move this to be exactly 1.5 inches tall, 1.5 inches wide as well. So I can change the layering by bringing an object forward or sending it backward. Okay, with the heart selected, if I did send backward, I might need to do it multiple times. It will be behind the line. I can repeat the process for my star. I can send it backward so that it is now behind the line as well. So, we've talked a little bit about shapes, their ordering, as well as their sizing of those particular shapes. If I wish to delete a shape, I want to delete this straight arrow now. I can select it. On my keyboard, I can find the delete key, and that will remove that particular shape. So pressing the delete key with the shape selected will delete it. I also have the ability to open up what's called the selection pane. I did this on the Home tab. I used the Select button that's on the far right hand side, and I clicked on Selection Pane. Now I will see the different shapes that I have on my screen, and by clicking on them, I can make those shapes visible. Notice this little symbol over here. This means that the shapes are visible. That's an eye. It's supposed to be an eye. If I click on that eye, it makes the shape invisible. The shape is still there. Obviously, if I printed it, it would not print out, but it is invisible. I can click back on this symbol here and make that shape visible again. Let's save our work, and we can close out of our trie file, and that wraps up our lesson as it relates to pictures, text boxes, and shapes. In this lesson, we inserted pictures into a document both from our computer as well as online. We inserted a couple different types of text boxes into our document. We added shapes to our document. We manipulated some of the objects. We showed you how to select the object by clicking on it or using the selection pane. We also dealt with the ability to resize those documents, making them larger or smaller, and then eventually deleting those objects.